Okay guys, the first thing I want to talk about today is academic expectations and what it means to go on an academic study abroad trip. Just to kind of set some preliminary ideas of how this is going to go. So the first thing you need to know is this is an academic tour. Because you are traveling for 2 weeks abroad and earning a semester of English credit, I have had to quantify the number of hours that you'll be working independently here on Saturday mornings and the actual educational hours abroad to equate a semester worth of learning opportunities. So it's really important that you understand that because there are places in London and England and surrounding areas that we will not visit because I can't possibly cover every historical site and every major tourist highlight along with all of the literary aspects of it too. Like, we don't do Stonehenge, which many people think is one of the must-dos in England, but honestly, it is super anticlimactic when you get there and you can't get within like 100 feet of it or something. I think some of you, did any of you go on the France trip this summer? Okay. They went by. But we are focused on literature, which means that every day there is some literary component. It might be a museum, it might be an author home, it might be a theater production, it might be a lecture on site, you know, different things like that. But it's all really cool stuff. Now you guys saw or had access to the itinerary when you were making a decision about enrollment, and so you know what all it holds for you. And you're fortunate to come after 11 years of this tour's existence because it's so close to perfect. Like, I was just telling Miss Davis, I am just tweaking it slightly. I would have said last time was really about perfect, but then I thought of 3 more perfect things to add. So I added those 3 things. Eventually, you know, I'm going to have to stop because it's getting really expensive. But I love this tour. It is really fun. And you're going to have free time, and you're going to get to make some choices. Like when we have a free evening in London, we'll divide up our chaperones, and you'll get to choose, like, do you want to ride the London Eye, that's the huge Ferris wheel with views of the Thames River and all of that? Do you want to go shopping at Piccadilly Circus and go to Fortnum and Mason and these really like high-end boutiques, or do you want to go to Phantom of the Opera at Her Majesty's Theater? You know, you'll have choices that you get to make. Most every day you'll get to pick what you want to do for lunch. So if you're craving American food and you want to have some McDonald's or Subway or something like that, KFC, they have those over there. I will probably point and laugh at you, maybe shed a tear, but you do have those options because it's your time, your money. If you want to try, you know, sit down pub food for some quality fish and chips, you'll have those options. Or if you just want to keep exploring and walk the streets with a sandwich, you can do that. So you'll have chances. I have intentionally built in some days that are kind of low activity so that you can just explore small, safe towns that it's fine for you to go find bookstores or go punting down the river or playing frisbee in the park or different things like that. So trying to meet everybody's likes. There's some opportunities for hiking and boating, and then, you know, there's something for everybody. If you like photography or you're looking for certain types of collections or you like shoes, just ask. We can point you in the right direction for the kinds of things to make the trip semi-customized to your liking. But understanding that when we are in an academic scenario, you're engaged in the process. So Matt Billett, our lovely tour guide, has, I mean, he's like a walking encyclopedia, but he's really funny. And so if he's talking on the bus, it's like you're listening because it is one of the educational opportunities of the day. So my expectation would be nobody sleeps when Matt is talking. No one has in 2 earbuds like, this is kind of boring, so I'd rather listen to my music. You know, there's not like the back row is just talking and socializing. When he picks up the mic, it is never for useless information. It is to show you or tell you what we're going to do and where we're going to go, or to tell you about the place or the academics. We do poetry readings. Anytime he picks up the mic, or I do, it's like you're fully attentive. When we're in museums or author homes or something like that, I know the tendency may be, yeah, I don't know what that is, don't care what that is, never heard of that, you know, let's move on. And so you rush to get outside and you're just kind of sitting there twiddling your thumbs waiting for everybody to get through. That's not the point of this trip. And that's partly what I was looking for from your teacher recommendations and your applications, that you're the kind of student who's going to take your time and you're going to read, you know, the little, whatever they are, the narrative boards with the different artifacts, and you're taking your time and you're learning and you're engaging in the process. Like, we go to the Globe Theater, and for part of the morning we go tour the Globe, and then there's a Shakespeare exhibit that we get to walk through, and we'll probably have it mostly to ourselves. And you can do everything from magnetic poetry to you and a friend can go in and read lines from Shakespeare and it records your audio. You can try on costumes from the Renaissance era. Like, it's very interactive, but I want to see you interacting, not just sitting in a circle waiting for the next thing. So there's a good way to do this trip and there's a bad way to do this trip. But if you're just listening to the recommendations about where to go and what to see, the people who have enjoyed the trip the most in the past are those who just embrace it for what it is, and they just do everything we recommend to them, and they become little sponges soaking in all the learning opportunities around them. And there's way more than just literature. I mean, it's learning about the culture, it's an opportunity for spiritual growth, it is also an opportunity for social growth. So you'll be put in some circumstances that may be slightly out of your comfort zone. Like, you sometimes will be rooming with your best friends, and other times it's like the names were pulled out of a hat. You're like, why am I with this person? Well, it might help you meet somebody that you never thought you would be interested in, and then you find that you have some things in common. After the trip, I've never heard anybody say, that was the most devastating experience. It's usually positive, like, I had no idea we had so much in common, or I thought I hated them, but it turns out like we didn't kill each other. You know, I mean, at the minimum. So good plans, but I just wanted you to really understand what it is, because like, once we start this academic work, you're in. That said, if something is going on with you and you're like, yeah, it turns out like this doesn't sound like fun at all, or my family has had a financial crisis and we don't have the money like we thought we would, if something has happened and you're thinking about withdrawing from the trip, that needs to happen sooner than later, because there's still a long waiting list of people that are desperate to go. And it would be unfair for you to take that spot and then by the time you withdraw, it's too late to catch anybody up with all the academic work. So really, by the end of the month, it'll be kind of too late for us to pull new people from the waiting list. So just talk to your parents, be sure, yes, this is happening, this is a go, I know the dates, I know the costs, let's do this. And if not, then, you know, it's not gonna hurt my feelings, it's just that I want to know now instead of later, for the sake of those on the waiting list. Let's look in your notebook, and I need you to do a couple of things. Hopefully you have a 3-prong pocket portfolio, my little gift to you, and you're going to carry this with you everywhere you go. To every academic meeting, you're going to take it to England with you, and eventually it'll be collected and graded. So you have to keep it very well organized and complete. Anybody need one? Ms. Davis is walking around. Inside, you should see some handouts, and I do want you to make sure that you have everything as it's designed. We are missing the front page for one of the packets back there. Deborah, did I have one for myself?
I accidentally grabbed only. Oh, I think I grabbed.
If you have too many,
Don't lie.
any duplicate pages, that's what I'm asking for. So everybody should have, and I'll walk you through it so you can check what you have. The academic calendar and England prerequisites is page 1, and everything should be front and back. The second page says England Study Abroad 2018 Literature from London to the Lakes. And that's 2 pages. And you have Caedmon's Hymn. Introductory notes for reading the Canterbury Tales is 3 pages. Canterbury Pilgrims is front and back. Chaucer's Canterbury Tales Guided Reading Questions and Test Review. There's 4 pages. Then a movie review sheet. And then an independent reading information, and the last page is margin notations for Shakespeare's Macbeth. If you're missing any element of that or have more than what you need, if you'll go see Miss Davis, she'll work out your folder for you. All good. Then let's look at the academic calendar and England prerequisites. This is where we'll be typically the second Saturday of each month with a few alterations. And I think there are 2 dates, one in November and one in February, that this room is not available. So we will meet in the Weber Collaboratory of the main building. But I'll be sure to announce that through email, and I'll send a remind text to make sure that you know where to go on those occasions. If you are ever absent, then you will meet with me within about 3 days of that absence. Before school would be great. So like if you missed today, then you would come in Monday or Tuesday, maybe Wednesday before school, to give me whatever it is that everybody else turned in that day, or schedule assessments if you have a test to make up, and get any handouts that I distributed from that meeting as well. And then you would go home and find a time that week to watch the video, and the sooner the better, because what happens, we start work on a Saturday, and you're given about 1 month to accomplish those tasks. If you let the whole week pass before getting with me or watching the video, you've missed a week of studying or reading or whatever it is you were supposed to do. So it's important that you watch that video. Your parents will be sending me emails to confirm, yes, they watched the video, like how I'm doing now, recording the lecture. I will post those on YouTube and then upload the link to It's Learning. I will also use It's Learning for additional handouts and resources in case you miss anything. We're going to run through the calendar just so you're kind of aware of how things go. And then I also want to talk about the difference in core and honors credit, because that's a decision that you'll need to make, preferably by our next meeting. So today, obviously nothing due. Today our focus is going to be an introduction to the English language, and we're going to be talking about Anglo-Saxons and Caedmon, who was the first religious poet in England, and then introducing you to Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, which is the first work that you'll do independently. Then on October the 7th, you have a Canterbury Tales objective test. So it's kind of multiple choice, just like, you know, any literature test that you might have had in English class. And then I introduce the next thing. Now, because Wuthering Heights is so long, you'll see that I don't assess that at the next meeting, but the following, to give you a couple of months to read Wuthering Heights. It's the biggest thing that you'll do in terms of just, it's a lot of reading. It's a pretty thick book. And then on November 11th, the poem that I'm going to introduce to you today, you'll be reciting that. It's very short. If you're out of the habit of reciting things or memorizing things, you'll be surprised how easily you pick up. It just comes through repetition. So you could listen to audio files of it until it gets in your head. You could create a song with it. I think Jenna Ash sang the poem to me when she did this, and that's fine, whatever works for you. But I love memorization because it helps us to be able to memorize scripture, and we know that God tells us to hide away his words in our heart, and that's really hard to do if you don't memorize it. So it's a skill that I think is kind of a lost art that we need to return to. You'll also see there are several movie reviews that you do. And some kind of laugh, like, why are watching movies important to this curriculum? Well, unless you want to read 9 novels or so on your own, it's a way to understand more literature that we don't have time to read. So I'm giving you a lot of variety in what you read. You're reading short stories, poems, a novel, a play. Honor students will also do a couple of novellas. Well, one novel and an additional novel and a novella. So it gives you a good variety of genres of literature. And then the assessments, you have different things all the time. You have some traditional tests, some essays, some prezzies, and just trying to kind of mix things up for you. But the movie reviews is just a fun way to expose you to British literature without having to read it, but it gives you a good general idea of it. Then there are some extra credit opportunities. I'll talk more about those in a minute, but there's one movie that you can choose whether you're going to watch it or not. Then you can see it goes straight through the spring semester, February the 10th, where you see honors underlined. That means those due dates are only for those who elect to take this for honors credit. And those dates are mostly February and April, where you would have additional things to take care of for that credit. If it says due, then you bring that with you on that Saturday. If it says test, that means when you arrive that Saturday, you will have a test here. And we'll go into a couple of classrooms and spread out and give you some space to do that. Anything that is late is 10 points off per day. And I say school day to make sure you understand it's not like 10 points in October and 10 points in November and 10 points in December. It's per school day, but on the weekend it would continue to also be 10 points on Saturday and 10 points on Sunday. So you really have to get it to me that school week or you're missing significant amounts of points. The grading for this course is incredibly challenging for me, and so I have scheduled it at a time that it's, you know, maybe not when a lot of my senior stuff is due at the same time, so I have to be strict with that policy because I've got to get it graded for you, and I hope to turn everything to you. Like if you turn it in October, it'll be ready for you at our next meeting in November. Let's talk about core and honors and AP a little bit. There are certain requirements that everybody does. And if you do that, you're going to get 1 semester of core or on-level British literature. And that's what will show up on your transcript. So the way that works is senior year, you would take an additional semester in the fall. And it could be core or honors as well. So you could say, okay, like I'm a junior now, my school year is really tough. I'm going to take this for core credit, but by senior year, I think I could do a semester of honors and then be finished by Christmas. You can mix and match. You could do core now, honors then, honors now, core then. You could do both honors or both core. It's your decision because they're isolated semesters. It's just you have to have 2 semesters of British Lit, and this is one of them, but they don't have to be the same core or honors. Does that make sense? Okay. If you chose to do honors for this, it would show up as a full semester of honors British literature. And the only difference is you also read Pride and Prejudice, which is a lengthy novel, and you have an assessment to do with that, and a test to do with that. And then you read The Great Divorce, which is a short novella by C.S. Lewis, and you do a creative arts assessment with that, and some during reading summaries kind of thing. It's not a huge extra commitment to do honors, except for really reading Pride and Prejudice. You could just kind of evaluate, do I have time to read this extra novel? And you would be introduced to it in December, and it would be due in February. So you've got 2 months to read the novel, but that's something to consider. So it's not that it's harder for honors. For this course, it's just more. So that when we go abroad, and we're talking about Jane Austen, and we're visiting the Jane Austen Center, if you've read Pride and Prejudice, it means a lot more to you to see it than if you just watched the movie. Okay, so that's why it's for honors credit. AP. This is a different animal altogether. If you are naturally gifted in English, you didn't ask to be, but you're just really good at it, you like to read, you're a pretty good writer, or you're contemplating a career in an English-related or communications field, you probably want to do AP. I'll go ahead and tell you, we offer 2 AP courses here. Now, juniors, you've already made your choice for this year, but we offer AP Language and Composition junior year and AP Literature and Composition senior year. The way those are different, AP Language junior year is very much about rhetoric. It's nonfiction. It's analyzing the author's argument. That's sort of the idea behind that. AP Literature senior year is fiction, and it's metaphor and simile and personification and the techniques the author uses to convey their story. But it's not about argument, and it's not about nonfiction. Personally, I think it's more fun, but that's because that's my side of the brain. If you're more analytical, argumentative side of the brain, you would like AP Lang. I tell you that because you don't have to take 2 AP classes in English. In fact, most colleges only accept one or the other, not both, for college credit. So I'm encouraging sophomores, like, pick which one you like, because usually there's a huge group to take it junior year, and then that group is about 25% of that number take AP senior year. And we would like for you to more evaluate, this is more my style than this. In thinking about AP credits, I can't prepare you for an AP national exam in 1 semester. So if you do choose to take AP Literature senior year, understand that you are committing to that whole year of English in the classroom. So then you might be feeling like, well, then why am I even doing this? If you took honors for this course and AP Literature senior year, you graduate knowing everything I do. Okay? It is the maximum learning opportunity that I can present to you. On your transcript, it's also the most rigorous because you have an extra semester of honors English credit in addition to a full year of AP English Literature and Composition. So that looks really nice to colleges. If you're about rigor, that's maybe the way you should go. Or you could maybe take this for honors, take honors your senior year for that first semester and be done with it. You could take AP Language junior year, you know, to kind of boost the rigor in that way, and that's perfectly fine. I don't want to convince you to do something that you're not academically and intellectually ready for. I just want you to know what you're committing to depending on which route you go. Okay? So I have, like Blake Chaput, for instance, took this for honors credit and is taking a full year of AP with me. And I'm like, good for you, because you didn't have to do that. But he just wanted to. And so he's in it for the learning or the rigor, not much else. But then I have probably 20 or so that are taking core or honors English this semester. And in December, they're like, yes, I'm done. Like, I don't have another free block next semester. So I understand I mean, after all this work, you deserve that. But I also commend those who choose to take AP. Any questions about how that works? You could do this for core, like an extra semester of core English and AP your whole senior year. I mean, so you can balance it. It's a mix and match deal, okay? Any way you want. But I will be looking for answers to that question, what do you want to take, core or honors? I'll be looking for that decision at our next meeting. You don't have to commit to AP now. I just wanted you to know that if you do take AP, literature senior year is the whole year. The good news is those of you, all of you, will be exempt from summer reading this summer going into senior year. So if you're a junior now, you absolutely will have no summer reading next summer. It'll just be, you know, what you're already doing for my class. Those of you who are sophomores right now, it's delayed gratification because you still have to do what's necessary for your 11th grade classes, but senior year, you wouldn't have summer reading. Yes, includes AP. No summer reading the summer before senior year. Guys, I need to hear this question. Yeah, you still get that extra 0.5 on your GPA. Yeah. Okay, any other questions about core honors AP? All right, turn the page. This is unique from all my other classes. I would never do this for my literature classes. But at the end of all of this, when everything is said and done and your last assignment is turned in and graded, if at any point in this year you turn in extra credit, I'm going to boost your total score by 2 points. Because these are experiential activities that I want you to have. You're going to be having the very best experiences because you're going abroad. But we can also do some of that during this year. Some things that qualify. A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens is performed at the Shakespeare Tavern in downtown Atlanta every December. I highly recommend it. It is an annual tradition. Mr. Zeffo and I go every single year and take different people with us every year. And it's a phenomenal production. So you'll be going to London where Dickens lived and wrote. So if you choose to do that, that would earn you the 2 points. Really anything at Shakespeare Tavern that is British literature based, I would approve for this. Now you might just check with me to say, is this one an appropriate one? Is it a good one? Can I understand this one? Right now they're doing The Taming of the Shrew. It's funny. It's really funny. I think that one is that She's the Man? If you've seen that movie, I think that's the same plot as The Taming of the Shrew. So it's a good one too. There are preview nights that you can get in for $15, or students at any time I think can get a discount on tickets. But that's a good option for you. If you go to Medieval Times for dinner, I mean that's a pricey option and it's not that close, but if that's something your family would be interested in doing, that too could earn you the credit. The Georgia Renaissance Festival in the spring, you could go to that. You could take a fencing class. Fencing lessons are offered around Atlanta. So what you do, any of those that you choose to do, you have a potential for the 2 points. I just need documentation like your ticket stubs, pictures of you there, your brochures or pamphlets, like just plenty of evidence that yes, I was here. And then you do a one-page typed, double-spaced, 12-point font, traditional paper, just telling me about your experience. And then I will just put that on hold, and it'll stay in a folder, and at the end of the course, when I'm finalizing your grades, it could boost you too. So really, it could end up being the difference in a letter grade. If you're on the border, then it could push you to the next grade, because I just believe experiences like that are unforgettable, and they're related to our course content. If you think of something else, like if the Alliance Theater or somebody else is doing a Shakespearean production, just run it by me in advance. Now, what if you do more than one? Excellent, I'm glad you had fun. I'm not giving you 4 points. Okay? So you're only getting up to 2 points, however many you do. So just pick one to do for me, but definitely have fun doing other things as well. Look under the requirements section. It's the back of page 1. This is what you signed when you, as part of your application process. But I needed to remind you of some of those things that you said, yes, I understand. Just as a refresher. If you were on academic probation at the end of this semester, you could potentially forfeit your spot. The reason is because if you cannot manage your current coursework for your sophomore or junior year, we don't need to add this independent study on top of that. Okay, that needs to be your priority. So if you find that it's too much to balance, then we're just gonna remove you from that. There has never been anyone who tried and failed this course, ever. But there have been people that have a WF, withdraw fail, on their transcript because they chose not to do the work, or they didn't pace themselves, or they just didn't come to these meetings, and they, you know, at the end of it all, like, they didn't have it. One person went on our last trip and, you know, had tried kind of all along, but she didn't do any of the on-tour course requirements. So she failed the course. So she didn't get that extra semester of English credit, and then was committed to taking a full year, senior year, after doing all that work. So it doesn't go away. You can't just decide, I think I want to go on the trip but not get credit for it. It's not that it would just vanish. It shows up on your transcript as a WF. That doesn't look so good to colleges. That means I withdrew because I was failing, you know, not just I decided not to do it. It looks really bad. All of you should be sophomores and juniors, so that's a non-issue at this point. If you required strong disciplinary action, like expulsion obviously, but sometimes even lesser things, that could prevent you from going on the trip. That has happened to 2 people. They got in significant enough trouble, got out of school suspension, and got dropped from the trip. So that's to help hold you accountable for good behaviors and good academics all year leading up to the trip. You will be signing a community covenant before we go on the trip, and it's very much like what you're familiar with, what you've been reviewing in your Bible classes. But you're committed to, even if I'm of age to drink while in England, I'm not going to drink while I'm in England. I'm not going to be indulging in any form of tobacco and, you know, nicotine and whatnot. Not going to be sneaking into girls' dorms or guys' hotel rooms and whatnot. It's all a safety issue. It's all a safety issue. I think I mentioned this, I don't know if I mentioned this at the initial meeting or if I'll do it in the spring, but here's like worst case scenario to me in my mind. You go into a pub for lunch and somebody who is already 18 orders for themselves or for someone else a pint of this room temperature ale they've been hearing about forever, and or maybe 2, and they don't realize, because they're not accustomed to drinking or something, they don't realize the physical effects it's going to have on them. So they stand up and leave the restaurant feeling just a tiny bit tipsy and forget that traffic goes the opposite way in England. Y'all, that is like, besides sharks, that is my greatest nightmare. Like if I had to make a phone call to your parents telling them something happened to you because you made a stupid decision, I mean, I don't even know. You guys have probably heard of some things that have happened to students on study abroad tours, not at our school, but somebody that does EF tours, he was at North Cobb High School and had a student die on his trip. It wrecked him. Like he's in all kinds of therapy now because a student died on his trip. So I give you guardrails, I give you boundaries, I give you supervision, I give you rules because I am trying my best to get you home safely to your parents, and I will not fully relax until I do. Like even at night when I'm in my hotel room, I'm trying to get some rest for the next day. I don't know if I ever really fall into a deep sleep because you're with me and I've got to get you home, you know. And I'm not in a hurry to get you home, but I mean, you understand. So I have to have that commitment from you. If I see that you're causing us stress because we have to worry about you, I'm just going to send you home. If I think that you're doing stuff that you should not be, I will call your parents. And a flight from England, like if you're looking for next day turnaround, you could be looking at, what, $1,300, $1,700, and you would miss the trip, you would not get academic credit, and your parents would kill you, you know. I mean, I'm not afraid to do that. There was one tour that we needed to do that, but it was at the end of the tour and we couldn't get them out any faster than we could already leave. And so we basically tied them to Dr. Tilley for the last 2 days of the tour. You know, it's just, I mean, we've had some disciplinary issues in the past. Consequences have ranged from the minor, like we had to remove their television from their room, to the major, like you're sleeping on Dr. Tilley's floor because you can't be out of sight, you know, everything in between. I need to be able to trust you, and you were picked because you're trustworthy and you're intelligent and you're up for the challenge of this trip. And so that's the commitment you're making. The academic requirements, they're coming to you today. And I've already talked about what the WF looks like. You're at all of these meetings. You really can't decide, yeah, I'm super tired, so I'm not going to go and I'm just going to watch the video. That would be an unexcused absence. If it's unexcused, I have the right to give you a 0 for any work that was due that day. Okay? And something's due every time. So that's what happens if you just don't come because you don't want to. So definitely have your parents email me if there is a legitimate conflict, and we'll work it out. Look at the next to the last bullet. Students are required to participate in every lecture and whole group activity and should listen attentively to all instructional time, whether in a traditional setting, on a bus, or on a guided tour. You don't really have to figure it out like, I don't know if this is an important thing or not. I'll tell you. You know, I'll be like, guys, get out your portfolios. That's what these are called, that you're going to carry with you forever. Get out your portfolios and take notes. Or get out your portfolios and add to this at this time. Some will be casual, short things, like at the Jane Austen Center, you're going to have about a 10-minute lecture. So you're just taking notes during that time. Other times, like at Whitby Abbey, Matt Billett does an entire, like, 45-minute lecture on Dracula. And at Tintern Abbey, we're sitting in this amazing ruins, and I'll do a poetry lecture on William Wordsworth. Those are times that you are actually writing down and taking notes and keeping it in your portfolio. The way the portfolio works is it is a collection of all academic work that you do from here. Not the test and the movie reviews and things that I'm grading all along. It's the cumulative house for all of your notes and Deering reading assignments, directed reading questions, all of that goes in here. And at the end of the tour, the chaperones are gonna collect these, take them into our hotel room, and grade them, and it's worth 15% of your grade. So there's no chance of making an A if you don't do this well, okay? It's just mandatory and it's good for you. Let's look at literature from London to the Lakes. Andrew, is that still recording? Can you tell?
Yes.
Good, okay. Let's look at the overview. And I would love a volunteer reader for this. Thank you, Amber.
The goal of the global classroom is to help students surmount the geographical and cultural barriers to education. Expanding the classroom into other nations creates an opportunity for hands-on and visual learning that brings a remote understanding to an experiential reality. This custom-designed tour of England will expose students to social and historical distinctions that must be understood in order fully to comprehend select literature. Senior level English enhances skills in writing, reading comprehension, research, and critical thinking through the study of renowned works of British literature. Completion of pre-tour, on-tour, and post-tour assignments will engage students' awareness to the beauty and complexities of British literature and will assist them in further development of the life skills aforementioned. As a result of thoughtful and thorough work, the students may earn a second semester's worth of senior English. Students may select to pursue honors placement credit. Those who wish to take AP English Literature and Composition their senior year may not exempt the second semester. However, they may earn an extra semester of English Tech for successful completion of the core or honors work outlined below.
Thank you very much. That's this whole course in a nutshell. And then I break it down into what are you doing before the trip, what are you doing on the trip, and what are you doing after the trip. So I'm going to take about 5 minutes to run you through so you have the big picture of what's going to happen, and then we're going to have a little break before our first lecture. So the way this is organized under pre-course requirements, and really the whole thing, I want to show you the authors that we're covering. And those are authors that we will be engaged with them when we're in England. So you have to understand these authors or we get there and it's like, I don't know who they are. Why is this significant? Why do I care? You know, by process of studying them, then when you get there, then the light bulbs start going off. And you're like, oh my gosh, like I know what this is about, or this is so cool, or like I get how the landscape contributed to the mood and plot of Wuthering Heights, and it gives me chills because I know the connections that will happen when you combine this academic learning with those experiences abroad, and it's a thing of beauty. I'm very excited. Like I can't give you a better classroom than taking you over there, and like we're outside and you're like stunned by what you're seeing, but it makes sense to you. If I took you without all this, it doesn't mean anything, you know? So then under the next column, it tells you what's the topic that we're studying or what's the specific work that we're studying. Then it shows you what you're doing, and you can see the variety of things that you're doing there under reading assessments. And then the movie review shows you for this author or for this work, here's the movie that's going to help that come alive for you a little bit more. Now, just note, under honors editions, those reading assessments are the extra things that you're doing, but the movie reviews, everybody's doing. That's why there's an asterisk next to those. So the first kind of set from Caedmon down to William Wordsworth, that's everybody. And then the two movie reviews, Pride and Prejudice and something C.S. Lewis related, that's everybody. But it's the independent reading folder and objective test and the summarizing and multimodal, those are the honors.